This is the City of Erie Historic Review Commission. Today is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. We'll start out with a roll call. Vice Chair Dave Brennan here. Secretary Melinda Meyer. Here. Commissioner Jean Craig Pepper.
Here.
Here, thank you. And Commissioner Mark Tannenbaum.
Here.
Here. Next, Executive Director Snippert is here. Jackie's not here today. Director Spry's not here. And then Assistant Planner Cooper Moore is here. Great. Okay. First item on the agenda, well, second item on the agenda is the public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment, or is there anyone online? None?
We have no one online.
And I don't see anyone approaching. So we'll move on to the next item here. The approval of the past meeting minutes and certificate of appropriateness report. Did everyone get a chance to review the meeting minutes and the report?
Yes.
Yes. Is there any questions about either the minutes or the report? Any amendments? Any problems at all?
That's great.
Okay.
Not for me.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, we will have a, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Tannenbaum makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second, okay, Craig second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, those, the majority is in favor, so with the ayes have it. Okay, the next item is the COA report. There is none, no report, so we'll go to public correspondence. Matthew.
We have received no public correspondence related to the HRC.
Okay, thank you. We'll next move on to the old business, citywide historic resource survey review.
Yes. Excuse me. So I know at our last meeting, you had asked to see the finalized reports that our conservation team, so our consultants have put together for you. So each one of you should have received a link to those reports. They are enormous in size. So unfortunately, we can't send them directly. They need to be housed on our shared drive for you to be able to access them. As you can see in going through the reports, it has information on every individual building that was part of the, I believe, 8 identified neighborhoods, and recommendations on prospective historic districts, prospective individual listings of buildings within those neighborhoods. So a lot of comprehensive data. Our next steps is connecting our GIS coordinator for the city to that for PHMC's GIS coordinator, and then start to migrate this data into the city's systems. And at the same time, we are looking to have community meetings over the next several months that will take the information that was gathered by our consultants out into the community to have an opportunity for them to basically review the results and talk about some prospective next steps. So I know that the reports that I had sent out earlier are comprehensive, if not overwhelming. I wondered if you had any questions or any observations or wanted to talk through any of the information that's present in those reports.
Any questions? Everybody go through.
Well, I am not the most technologically talented soul. So would it be possible for me to stop by your office like this week sometime and just get like a how to use the link for dummies session?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to walk you through it.
Matthew, can you put it on a flash drive if it won't email? What's the proper? Yeah, I don't want to make it a big deal. I don't want to make it laborious to.
Quite frankly, the easiest way to do this would probably be for us to print out several hard copies. They are kind of hundreds of pages long, so I would be happy to do that for the commissioners, perhaps even having kind of one bound copy for us to be able to share, so it's not completely overwhelming.
Yeah,
Until we get to the point where we can actually input all that data into the city's GIS system, where it would be interactive and navigable, we can certainly look to do that.
Okay. Question?
Yeah, so but I think I need a little training, and I'm sure no one else there feels that way, but I'm a print person, but it's good to know that it will be, there will be a actual printed, albeit a very voluminous print, what, in your office, or?
Yes, I'm happy to house it there or within the Department of Planning. The challenge is always to make all of the information available to those that wanted it. And even though I know that the amount of technological data kind of lends itself to looking to have something online, you are by no means the only one, I think, who would enjoy looking through an actual volume. So we can make those arrangements.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm excited about it.
Okay, we'll move to the next item here, the State Street National Register Historic District. There's an update on that, Matthew?
There is. And so I was able to touch base with the Downtown Partnership. And so the firm has been selected. They are going with Markowski Engineering Group, which is based out of, I believe, Ligonier, and have quite an extensive resume.
What's the firm again? Can you repeat that?
Markowski.
Okay.
And I believe that over the next several weeks, the folks at Markowski in their Cultural Resources Group will be meeting with Erie Downtown Partnership, as well as EDDC and us in the city, to start formulating steps forward on the program itself. I think one of the first kind of iterations is that they have had the opportunity to start reviewing some of the data that was collected by our surveying process, but also to start formulating arguments around what a prospective National Register nomination for Street Street could look like. I know that they are trying to create the most expansive district that's possible, and I know that a lot of the conversations that we have had have centered around trying to understand what boundaries would exist for a State Street National Register nomination. I think that conservatively, we had looked at focusing on a narrative that would perhaps be north of 12th Street, but it seems like through some of their work, they've identified kind of larger options that would extend further south. So I'm very interested to see what their proposal would look like for boundaries and what kind of arguments that they are presenting to defend those boundaries. So for the timeline, I know that one of their primary concerns was ensuring that they had a community engagement session scheduled. And as we all know, as the weather turns, it can be increasingly difficult to do. So I believe that they're still anticipating trying to have a community engagement session before the end of the calendar year, but we won't have an update on that until I think our meeting 2 weeks from now.
Would you, of course, we'll make it known that the meeting's going to happen, but would you inform everybody that could be in the district, or at least, again, that sounds like a lot of work, but we would just put a notification out that we're meeting to try to get people here to get their input.
Yep, that is the responsibility of the contractor,
Yeah.
and is written into their contract. As the city, once we know that the date has been scheduled, we will do our best to help publicize. But it is, at least my understanding, that they are reaching out to, or will be reaching out to individual property owners within a prospective district once they have an idea of what that boundary looks like.
Okay. sounds good. Any questions by any commissioners? Any questions, Jean? Greg?
No, no.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next item, the CLG project grant with the City Hall National Register nomination.
So for our own consultant, as I mentioned at our meeting in October, they were able to meet their initial deadline of the end of September for their first draft of the nomination. We have submitted that draft to the State Historic Preservation Office for review and are currently waiting their feedback. So our consultant won't be able to move forward on the project until they receive that feedback from State SHPO. I'm anticipating that that will come through within the next week.
The next week?
Mm-hmm. They have a kind of self-imposed 30-day turnaround. So we'll have a better sense of what the State Historic Preservation Office's recommendations are after next week. The anticipated deadline is still the beginning of the calendar year. So I believe January 30th is when we are asking our consultant to have a final draft ready for our review, in your review, before it's submitted to the State Historic Preservation Board for consideration.
Okay. Any questions?
Do we have any, have we had conversations with the Bureau for Historic Preservation, and are they sounding like they're interested or not?
They are very enthusiastic about the project. I think that
Okay, good.
the primary argument that was made was around architecture, and our consultant is now making a secondary argument around the importance of government and civic engagement as part of the nomination itself. And we were very happy to see that that additional argument is being made. The conversations that we've had with the State Historic Preservation Office, they are firmly in agreement that that is kind of productive argument to make and would only strengthen the nomination once it gets to the board.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if that's it with the City Hall National Register nomination, move on to new business. There are no historic nominations. There are no applications for certificate of appropriateness. So we'll move on to C, which is the Article 952 honorary signage, the draft proposal amendments. I know you sent that out, Matthew. I mean, was there proposed amendments in here, or was proposed to review and make any recommendations?
That's a good question. So the latter.
Okay.
So for us, this is a bit of a long process. It's going to look very similar to the amendments to Article 7. So with these, we're looking to make amendments to Article 952. Currently, that section of our code addresses honorary street names in that process. So the amendments that we would be introducing into that section would have a direct impact on creating new programs. So a historic plaque program for landmarks that have been listed on Erie's Register of Historic Places. It would also create a historic marker program for the city of Erie. And finally, it would address wayfinding signs, so street signs that are within a historic district, both a National Register district and a local district. So the amendments that we are putting forward, some of those would engage you as the HRC, particularly those for a historic marker program, and also for guidance on historic plaques for landmarks. There would be a review process, and ultimately, for the historic marker program, the final decision would be made by City Council. So it would be an application would come before us. We would adjudicate, send our recommendations to City Council for the final approval for a historic marker. For the historic landmark plaques, That would be a process where if someone has an individual landmark within the city of Erie, they would be able to have a plaque. And I know this is something that we've talked about before, and I think that Heather had done some initial work to look at design. But before we move forward with any kind of design program for a plaque program, any design for a plaque program, we need to have legislation that enables the Historic Preservation Program and the HRC to do this. And then finally, the program around historic districts and wayfinding street signs is primarily a function of the Department of Public Works, and would map out a timeline after a historic district is created that the neighbors or community group that are interested in pursuing kind of a change in the wayfinding of those signs would go forward. So it's important that all of you as commissioners have the opportunity to review those processes and see kind of the points of engagement for the HRC. What I would ask of you is that in our next session in December, that you make a formal recommendation to City Council, and then those amendments would go to them for their consideration.
Can I say that again? What for nominating people actually getting a plaque?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so there would be 3 different programs. One would be for those people who have a City of Erie historic landmark, and so they can have a plaque on the front of their building that says this is an official City of Erie historic landmark. Another are for districts, and so that the street signs in those districts reflect the creation of the district. And then lastly is a historic.
But it's on a street sign.
Yep.
Each house doesn't get a plaque, right?
That's true. The plaques that would go on houses are only for individual landmarks.
So the plaque is on the signage for street,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
And then the last program would be for freestanding historic markers. This one's, what we have put forward is a process by which someone would be able to apply for a historic marker, but it also would enable this program to help keep an inventory of other markers that are with the City of Erie, because we know that there are historic markers that are associated with the state, with the county. There's no comprehensive list of those, and so it would enable us to be able to track and monitor markers that either already exist or that would be brought into existence in the future. It would also let people apply for historic markers of people and places of significance that perhaps aren't tied to a particular physical location. Let's say if the house is no longer there, or if it's particularly related to an event. It still provides us a way to honor that history and recognize it within a public realm. And each of these different programs, I should say, also ties back into recommendations that are present in our preservation plan.
And we would not go through the state anymore for that?
No, the state still would have their marker program. It is exclusively for either people or events that had a statewide or national importance. So somebody who...
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be about architecture either.
Yes.
I mean, the PHMC, has plaques all over the state, and, when people bring something to their attention, they vote on it and whatever, and those plaques may not have anything to do with the building. Sometimes it's, farmland or, whatever, where a battle happened or something.
Yep. It also, their program creates a bit of a gap, that if somebody had a tremendous impact within the city, but their impact wasn't beyond that. It could be someone as important and prominent as Sarah Reed, for example. Her impact on Erie was tremendous, but outside of that, relatively limited, and so then she wouldn't be able to have a state historic marker honoring her history. But in this way, in creating a program that is owned and operated by the city, we would be able to recognize her importance as a community hero.
Matthew, you said there's no comprehensive lists of all the markers?
I wondered
I mean,
about that.
each individual group has their list, but there's no comprehensive list. Is that
That's correct.
what's happening? Okay. It would be
Well,
nice.
Could we do that?
DHMC knows every single marker they have. I know they do.
I don't know about the veracity of that statement. Through this process, there's been a couple markers that we have come across that were part of PHMC's past that no longer exist. So it's a very complicated landscape.
Well, that's interesting because, okay.
Yeah, they find it interesting as well. There are some markers that are state historic markers that are missing, that have been installed, and there are others that we have a record of existing, but they don't have in their systems. So the hope is that by creating this kind of list, this registry, that we're able to have a little bit more insight into kind of all of these different markers, and most importantly, ensure that the history that they embody is something that everybody can access. So, if there is a marker for Sierra Reed, that marker then ties into a narrative that somebody would be able to find on the City of Erie's website that talks about who Sierra Reed was and what her contributions are. To make it a bit more engaging and interactive.
I know they can do that almost electronically, like with a chip, that you can actually, like today the technology is so much cooler that you could actually walk around the city. And there are games that people do that are like that.
Yep.
And we could do something nice like that.
That's exactly the hope. I would, when you're looking at
On your cell phone.
Right, to make sure that there's an educational and engagement opportunity for the public. So this, when you're looking at the amendments that I had sent to you earlier, look at it through that lens, that this is really kind of step one to create these programs, and that we're going to be able to build on them year after year.
Right.
So Matthew, did you recommend having a work session after we review this in more detail? Is that what you had said in your discussion? I couldn't hear everything, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. What I would suggest is that at our next meeting in December, that we set some more time aside to talk about the particulars of the amendments and make sure that all of you are comfortable making a recommendation to council so that we can then move this to council for their consideration. As you're reviewing them over the next month, if you have any suggestions or comments, feel free to email them to me. I'm happy to integrate them into whatever.
Because that would be fun to just do a city one.
Yes.
It would be, that not like a state marker, because that's elaborate. That's hard to get.
And the idea then is exactly that. It would be programs that make the history accessible to everyone. Right. And also make it as a point of celebration for us all.
Right.
And
and
it
more
is to be
local
fun.
And we can incorporate the other ones into what we would do, more
Yes.
or less. The other way
Yep.
than bottom up rather than top down.
Yes, exactly that. What we, I think, Chair Brennan, to your point, in addition to having the HRC review, we would also put this prospective amendments up for public comment. So, after the HRC has an opportunity to review them and kind of formulate what those look like, then what we would do is post them publicly and then be able to take all that information to City Council to make a decision.
Sounds good.
I will say that even though those amendments I proposed, put before you for your consideration, we are also asking council if council would like any assistance in administering the current honorary street sign program that's in place. For us, if there's a way to ensure that things are streamlined and that we're able to, as a department, support, support the needs of the city, and if they think that that program is also an appropriate thing for us to help manage, then we'd be happy to do that. So there's a council session, I believe, on the 19th, and the question is being proposed to council of what their interest is, if they would like our assistance in administering that program as well.
Okay. You'll be at council to speak to that?
This is for city council this month?
Yes. And yes, I will be there to.
And is there somebody on the council that's interested in doing it, or are we just giving them this as a suggestion to think about?
I know that there are several folks on council who are our liaisons, and we know we've had some conversations about this very thing, because it's not our intention to propose these amendments for these programs without support. Our liaisons have been supportive, and as we're moving forward with this conversation in earnest, we will see.
Okay.
I think it'd be
That's
fun.
interesting.
That'd be fun to do.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So let's move on to the Historic Preservation Program. I know that you sent that out, Matthew. It was good to see all that again and review it. So do we want to, I see you brought up on the screen here. Again, it's very hard to read
I
from
can't
here, but it's hard to blow up and kind of really,
I can't see it. Woo.
Yeah, it doesn't aggregate well. No. How do I go backwards? It's like, not only does it not do well, but I'm also somewhat of a Luddite when it comes to technology.
You said Luddite.
Well, it's true.
Ooh.
Sorry.
hard to
There
drive
you go.
that document, huh?
Back. Yeah, I know. It's the intent is to keep track, right? Not to be a pretty display. Well, if you'd like, we can go item by item, or we can talk about it as a whole. I think that I know that the question was asked of kind of where are we on the priorities that we have set ourselves up in this spring. I can tell you just by looking at the color coding that we're making progress on absolutely every goal that we set out for ourselves. A big part of that was making sure that the program is fully staffed and that we're able to engage on the initiatives that are in front of us. I think that over the past few months, that some of the items that we had initially identified as something we want to move forward with, we want to reconsider. And so what I would suggest is that at our next session in December, if it's the will of the HRC, I can pull some of those items forward for a kind of more robust discussion on them. The items that are identified in purple in particular on this spreadsheet are initiatives that either may need to be reconsidered as to who's leading them, or just more discussion of what's an appropriate fit for the program, considering the granting and funding opportunities that we're looking at kind of into the future. Especially now, I can say that I have a much better sense of SHPOs, the State Historic Preservation Office. They have set their priorities for their upcoming fiscal year that's based off of the state's historic preservation plan. And so that would, I think, have an impact on what our priorities are and the types of programs and grants that we can pursue over the course of next year.
Okay. Be nice to make some type of work plan out of it. I know this is a list of items, and I know it's kind of more of a tally sheet, but if we could just talk about what was completed, but what do we want to get done? Who needs to work on it? What are what's measurable to say that it was completed, and kind of what's planned for the future is what I keep thinking about when I'm looking at this list. And it's kind of hard just to look at it and get it where we understand it fully where we're at now, but.
So,
Yeah, and maybe have some more work sessions.
I can definitely take this and make it a lot more interactive. And so if you wouldn't mind, I can put together a presentation that isn't just the sheet, where it talks about some of those initiatives and identifies kind of several that we can really dig into of, what is the plan? What does
What's
this look
achievable like the next year, That's what I keep envisioning.
And you could task us with things to do. We would do them.
Be careful what you
Yeah.
ask for.
I think we need a strategic plan then.
Right.
Exactly that, especially because, as we were updating this list, and what I think has become an organic process is that over the past 6 months, it has looked very different than prior to that, right? I'm very cognizant that every staff member that has been in this role, has taken the program in a different kind of direction based on their strengths, community needs, funding opportunities. And it's not lost on me that the same has happened here as well, right? And because we're coming up to the end of the calendar year, I think there's a natural opportunity for us to talk about the program, what kind of impact, it's had over the past 6 months, but also what the next year will look like. Some of the conversations that we're having now around, the budget and budget cycle speaks directly to those of, what sorts of things are we looking to not only fund, but manifest the recommendations that were put forward in the Historic Preservation Plan. I think that, whenever there's a question that comes up to what kind of work we're doing, we always need to be able to tie it right back into the preservation plan. And in looking at it, especially like in consideration of the marker program that we were just talking about, that was a goal that was identified for the city, but it didn't give a specific time frame, right, about when exactly that program would manifest. So it's always good to be able to think through kind of what those recommendations are and what's a realistic time frame to bring those into creation.
Would be great to also have like a year-end report type of thing.
Yep.
And then say, this is what we're working on for next year, but let people know because it's just, if people don't know about it, then, it's not doing a lot of people any good. And we want people to know about what we're doing, so hopefully they can participate or at least advocate or do something
Right.
to help out.
Absolutely, and it would be like, not to suggest we're political, but, a politician has in an ad, 60 seconds or to articulate what their focus is. And I think we need to, have that short list of what our major priorities are, what we, and how enlist them. And I just think that we need that very concise explanation of our purpose.
It does shift, like.
Well, no, it shifts, of course, but, we should be able to say immediately 5 or 6 things that we do and we're proud of,
I think, and Commissioner, to your point, one of the, I think, most impactful things that we can do is shift the cycle a bit. This year, when we look back at the date, the priorities and list that we had set for ourselves was in March of this year, with the anticipation that the celebratory events in May would be an opportunity to talk about the program, what we're doing to celebrate it. But looking at the calendar year, I think as a model, it would be a much more effective way to be able to have these conversations and have a end of the year report. And that way we can make sure that we're doing our due diligence, not only to ensure that that all members of council and our administration are fully briefed on the activities over the past year, but there's also, I think, looking forward, an educational opportunity that we'll have new members of council joining us in this coming year. and a new administration as well. And so kind of shifting this reporting structure from May to May to perhaps January to January would, I think, achieve the goals of the program a lot more effectively, and also be able to, I think, help keep us a bit more neat and organized when it comes to being able to talk about points and initiatives in the year.
Sounds good.
So, yes, I will, as an actionable item then, I will put together a presentation for all of you that we will go through at our next meeting in December, not only recapping kind of all of these initiatives to date, but then looking at kind of what will be accomplished or what we will achieve, set for ourselves as a benchmark for 2026.
Sounds good. Okay, any other questions on that?
Great.
We'll move to the
No,
director's.
that sounds like a great goal. Me.
We'll move to the director's report.
Unfortunately, our director is under the weather today. I think both literally and metaphorically looking out these windows. And so briefing us then on the planning department is our own Cooper Moore. Cooper?
Hi, good afternoon. Should I just hold this, or does it work if it's down there?
I think you're good.
Okay.
Sometimes I can't tell.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like Matthew said, Jackie's out today, so you're stuck with me. I've just got a couple of updates to keep you all informed on what the department's doing. Last month, 4 of us went to the American Planning Association Pennsylvania Chapter Conference in Harrisburg. It was a pretty good gathering. I think there were about 400 planners from around the Commonwealth there at the conference. We went to a couple of good sessions on housing, some outdoor recreation sessions, some community engagement sessions, and met with some colleagues from Mill Creek and things. Throughout the conference, afterwards we went to Lancaster for a day visit to see their city and to meet with their planning department. The other members of our department, Matthew and Aaron, who were not in attendance in person, zoomed in to chat with them. It was a really good conversation because we use Lancaster as a good example for a lot of things when we're researching ordinances and stuff. So we had a good conversation with the folks in their department. Erie Outside, our comprehensive citywide parks and recreation and open spaces plan, is moving right along. We just closed last Friday the community survey. We ended up with, I want to say, over 650 responses to that survey.
Wow.
Which we're really thrilled with. A lot of really good feedback about what the parks could look like in the future. Just as a reminder, it's not a park-specific plan, like they won't say, we need swings at this corner of this park, but more systemic to say, like, you know, there's not a single handicap accessible feature in any park in the city, and when we don't have enough people maintaining the parks to stay on top of everything. So that survey closed last Friday, and this coming week we will have stakeholder meetings with a number of groups throughout the city that focus on various topics as another part of the engagement process. City Council approved last month, and then the mayor signed some new amendments to our subdivision and land development ordinance. It was kind of similar to the rewrite process with Article 7. These amendments go through how people apply for subdivisions or land developments within the city. Not too many major changes to the process, but hopefully clears it up, and we can streamline the process going forward. So those are now in effect, and we'll be planning an educational session for architects, developers, and surveyors, as well as the general public, whoever is interested, just to go over the new steps. And then finally, we are making progress on our tree inventory. Arbor Pro is a consulting firm from Los Angeles, and they're here. They got here a couple weeks ago, and they'll be here through at least the end of this month. And they're surveying up to 18,000 trees in the city along streets and in boulevards, and if there's extra after that, we'll move into parks, and we'll have a good list of all the city trees. We'll know what kind of condition they're in.
Where are they from again, Cooper?
Los
LA.
Angeles.
Oh, wow. Long
Yep.
way. We'll take a long way.
Yes, yeah, and I think we've surprised them with our weather this time of year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so up to 18,000 trees, mostly along streets and in boulevards, and the condition of those trees. So they should be done by the end of this month.
Okay,
And that's what I've
great.
got.
Thanks so much for your report. A lot going on, tons going on. That's great to hear. Okay, well, I think that's our meeting. So would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Tannenbaum makes a motion. Do
And
we have
I'll
a second?
second it.
Second? Jean seconds it. Those in
Yes.
favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
The majority have it, so thank you. Okay, well, thank everybody for the meeting and for all the content. A lot of stuff to talk about.